So obviously, first of all, thanks for coming to do this. I know you're busy. You've got those things going on next week, which we'll probably touch on a little bit later on. Your business is Trylife. You've been going since 2011. I can see on Facebook you've got 6 million plus likes. There's a massive reach. You've also won Pictured Palace. So that's obviously giving you a lot of, opens a lot of doors and kind of all these accolades. I guess they kind of really justify just the power of what it is that you're doing. So do you want to just sort of tell us what, fill us in what interactive film is and what Trylife's take on it is?
I'll go back to when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I used to love reading the old choice-based adventure books. So you would get to a certain page in the book and it would say, turn to page 10 to go to the haunted castle, turn to page 12 to go to the enchanted forest. You would make choices on behalf of the character. And I just loved those books. They were just so engaging. And then I was brought up with gaming. So with me Binatone and then me Spectrum and me Amiga and PlayStation and Xbox and stuff like that. And my kids have been brought up with gaming as well. And if you look at gaming, they've took that kind of branch and narrative and done it really well. And later in life, I became a youth and community worker. And one of the things you do as a parent or as a worker is try to warn people about the dangers of doing stuff. Or you try to advise people anyway, and you say don't do that because that will happen, don't do that because that will happen. And really it was after the financial crisis happened, services were stripped right across the board. And I just knew that there was a way of engaging with young people but doing it using media that they were familiar with. And now people want to participate, they're sitting forward in the chair and they're immersing themselves. And then you look at all of the fan films and stuff like that are made, you know what I mean? People really do appreciate good media. I just took that principle of the old choice-based adventure books and what the games industry have done, and I thought, wouldn't it be good to make interactive drama or a film, but base it around issues that young people face. If you get the message right to the audience, people will proactively go out and share content because they want to be part of it. With the first episode, the character pretty much endures absolutely everything imaginable because we didn't know where the next bit of funding was coming from. Yeah. So I managed to get some ERDF money. I got some money from Northern Film and Media, a little bit of seed money to start off with. That allowed us to start putting some of these ideas down on paper because it was all in my head. Then I started talking to the Youth Council, the Youth Forum, getting the support of young people first. And then I went to the Teenage Pregnancy Unit and to the Youth Service and presented this idea. And they were totally up for it, and they were yeah, this would be amazing, this would be amazing. We eventually ended up speaking to the Director of Public Health, Dr. Danny Rutter, and he was like, this is absolutely fantastic, this would be amazing. He put a bit of money in and he took us up to his boss, who was the regional head, and he put a bit in on it to give us $5,000 each, and that really gave us just a little bit of breathing space to get a business plan together. And a good friend of mine, David Clausen, I went and had a chat with him, and he hasn't got a clue about anything I do because he builds buildings. And he was just I don't understand it. And I was like, mate, you don't need to. So he pointed us to the direction of North Star Ventures, which is a European proof of concept fund. And basically what I said to them was that I wanted to create true branch and narrative film. And I had a look around and nobody had done it. So what people had done with film was the Met Police had done something where it was do you carry a knife? The scene would play out. If you said yes, you got arrested. If you said no, you'd go to the next scene. And then if you'd be presented the same question again, and if you said yes, it would still be the same arrest scene. And very quickly, humans are very quick, especially if you've been brought up with gaming. You see that it's a linear story with this bolt-on addition. And it didn't feel very immersive. So actually, a lot of the time we're sat in heat and perk with post-it notes on the table. Honestly, the process, it must have took 6 months to try and map out how we're going to do it. It's so complex. And we ended up writing 455 pages of script. So a traditional film is 90 pages. In life, you try to say, don't do that because that'll happen. What you try to do is you try to warn people based on either your knowledge or your experience of being hurt. And that's what we've done with Trylife. So with Trylife, what I've done was, the first character, 17-year-old, it's a night before final A-level exam. She gets invited to a party, so do you go to the party, yes or no is the main choice. So if you say no, she has a flashback to a sex ed class. So the teacher's teaching them about sex education and he's doing really badly at it. So the user knows that she's got condoms in her top drawer. So does she go to the party, yes or no? If she says no, her boyfriend comes around, she has a flashback and he's basically going to try and have sex with her. If you say no, sometimes he's fine, sometimes he'll pester you and pester you and pester you. It's up to you if you bow down to the peer pressure or not. And sometimes storms out, goes to the party and sleeps with your best mate, and there's no you can do about that, because like that's his life, innit, right? If you do decide to have sex with him, you get the choice to use a condom, yes or no. If you say no, she's just about to make love to him, and then she stops and she's like, oh, I'm not too sure about this. So we're like, are you sure you want to go ahead? And if you say yes, she'll have unprotected sex. She goes to the exam the next day and she's not fully focused on the exam. She's thinking, oh my God, I might be pregnant. So she confides in one of our friends. A friend will go with her to the STI clinic. And what we've done is we filmed 9 different variants of that. If you get the all clear, the sexual health worker will use that as an opportunity to engage with the character and say, look, you've been really lucky this time. You really need to think about your long-term contraception. And regardless of what STI it is, the character will always be like, oh my God, what's that? Chlamydia, what's that? So will always like come from a stance of like being in complete surprise and not knowing. What we do is use the character's naivety, which is like, or just total lack of knowledge, for the sexual health worker to explain the STI. So from a young person's point of view, which is really important, they're learning through the character. So the character's like being like, oh my God, what's that? They're learning directly through that, and then there's no embarrassment or anything like that.
Making them empowered to be able to go to sexual health services.
Yeah.
You know?
If you go right back to the top of the story, so it looks like a family tree when it's mapped out. And if you decide to go to the party, your friends will come round and bring alcohol round. If you drink alcohol before you go out and then go to the party, you can still have consensual sex. But because you're preloaded on drink, we take away the option of using a condom, because you've had a drink, then you went out, then you consume more alcohol and potentially drugs. So if you do have sex, you're not going to be thinking about using a condom. But if you don't have a drink, then if you can have consensual sex, but you can have the option of using a condom. So a lot of people don't see all of this intelligence that's went into it. So you can imagine like how like the multiples and the different narratives, how this starts branching out. It's not just like one leads into 2 into 4 or whatever.
That's the thing that kind of stands out, isn't it? Because that's what I touched on at the beginning, is the fact that there's still like a story that happens, because that's life, as you said, that's exactly the way it happens, isn't it? So there's still a process that needs to go through, and that's the kind of like standout thing about the characters that you build. You know, you say the family tree. I mean, that's probably why you write 5 billion pages for each thing, 'cause it requires so much content. But that's the deciding factor of how it engages with the younger generation, like you said.
Trylife doesn't say what's right or wrong.
Yeah, it's a really important part.
We know that young people have no hindsight and they have no foresight. So everything they do is emotional. So when Paul's saying like, do they drink before they go to the party? Do they have unprotected sex? These are all done from an emotional place. And yeah, that decision making.
Plus one of the things is like the police have got to say, do not do that because that's illegal, right? And the health authority have got to say, do not do that because that's not healthy. So like what happens is when someone tells you don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, you go and do it.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Not working for the local authority and building something like standalone, we could take that chance and say like, so like not everyone that takes a pill is going to die, but like there is other consequences. And then we built the mathematics into the system, so like we could have built it based on real life probability, but we decided to give everything an equal option because we wanted to show young people what the impact of each of them choices, like or the result of that was.
So demystifying the problems kind of makes it a bit more trustworthy, doesn't it? So if it's yes, no, it's wrong, don't do that, you'll be sick, don't do that. It's like those adverts from in the 50s, isn't it? If you smoke weed, you die kind of thing. Kind of presents you as a more sort of trustworthy base because there's an engagement level that can't be replicated by the authorities.
And the thing is it's created by the very people that we wish to target. So this is all created by young people, so it's wrote by young people. It's acted. We're trying to bring in a young crew. The music and everything is all contributed by like young people, like predominantly under 25-year-old.
What we've embedded in sort of Trylife's process is instilling critical thinking and making well-informed young people. You know, all the young people we work with come away where they're now knowledgeable about sexual health or about services, about education, about anything that where we work with them, and you can't get better than that.
People think that you've got to try and trick young people or try to find a way to educate them because they don't want to learn about these things when it's full of shit.
Sponges,
it's totally full of shit. Like if you create something that is engaging and you create something like, of course young people want to learn about sexual health, of course young people want to know about mental health, but there's a way of doing it. And if you take them youth work principles and apply them using technology, you can engage with people. So when we released the first episode, we had 100,000 young people on Facebook. Our most popular city at that point in time was Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic. I was looking at the numbers on Facebook, so when I got to like 1,000 people, I thought, Well, that's all the cast and their mums and dads and brothers and sisters, and then it was like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. It got 10,000 and I started to get a bit panicky. I was like, shit, I hope this is good because I'm going to look a dick, you know what I mean, if it's rubbish. And then like it wasn't like no longer like people in my locality, and then all of a sudden kids from India just started diving on it, and I was like, in Maldives. And I was looking at these places thinking like, this is like mad. And then Santo Domingo was like the most popular city, so I contacted Kate Russell from BBC Click, and I said to Kate, look, we're releasing this interactive drama, and she loved it. She absolutely loved it, didn't she?
She launched it on BBC Click.
So like that launched on BBC Click. We had 100,000 Facebook fans on the day we launched. We hit 100,000, and we
were on BBC World Service as well.
So my two biggest fears at that time were, one, are young people going to engage with it, and secondly, how's it going to be perceived by the youth profession? And my biggest fear in the world was like, if they turn around and go like, this is absolutely disgusting, like I would like, you know, it was a fear for my career. And then it wasn't until it was released, then all of a sudden I had people from the games industry and I had people from all over saying like, oh my God, like what you've managed to bridge the gap between the games industry and the film industry. And I didn't realise the size of the achievement that we'd actually done filming like that amount of content. I later found out that like, I think Lord of the Rings trilogy is like 700 pages of script. We'd wrote like 455 pages. Do you know what I mean? Like we'd managed to get them from the Shire all the way to the fucking bottle of fucking
Probably had the Hobbit in there as well.
Do you know what I mean? So like what I'd set off to do as a youth and community work type initiative, it really captured like a lot of imaginations, and then I was looking at all the young people that were like completely, like what Nicky said, empowered by the whole process. And these young adults, right, because they'd like helped, like acted in it and started it, they became the ambassadors. So I've never really been the face of it. It's always been like the young people, and because they'd went through the process of like looking at all the different choices and stuff, they became really well informed peer educators, ambassadors for them subjects. But like a lot of our art, I guess, is hidden because people only get to see the trailer, or they only get to see the end product, and what they don't get to see is the level of complexity that, or the intelligence that goes into it, and they don't get to see the face-to-face work. They don't like.
Yeah, all the conversations, isn't it?
So all of these things like make it into the story. We then weave so we take the issue, and then write a story around it. And then what we do is we go and engage with about 1,000 young people and say, right, this is like the basic framework of the story. And they're like, oh my God, I know that happened to my friend, and this happened and that. And we use all of them horror stories and their use of language and slang and stuff like that to like really pad it out and make it feel real.
And it's true to life as well for them then. And even like regionally, dialectally, you know, the slang, like Paul said, even just their behaviours are different. And we've been all around the country, haven't we? And people are like, that's exactly what it's like. But it's the young people that actually put their little slang. So we're very true to form. So if a young person's telling us that there's no help for young carers here, and I look after my autistic little brother or sister, and this kid's 9, 10 years old, and we have to depict that.
I remember working for quite a large charity and trying to set up a Facebook page, just a Facebook page for a young dads group, and it would have took like 6 months worth of bureaucracy to get that page because there were so many child protection things. Like there was like people were horrendously scared of engaging with young people online, and like the shift just in them 5 years has been horrendous. We were like I come up with that idea in 2008. I got the first bit of funding in 2008. It's nearly 10 years since I had that idea. It's only now in 2017 that organisations are looking to engage with young people using technology. I managed to meet the Director of Public Health from Lewisham, and they had like a real issue with trying to engage with young people around knife crime, and we wrote an episode. We worked with the professionals again. They wrote the episode, like, you know, talk with like some of the horror stories. These young girls being arrested, carrying a gun, getting 5 years in jail. These young girls getting stabbed, carrying drugs, getting arrested, getting beaten up, being raped by the gangs. But then on the other side of that, you've got like, you know, like a young girl getting away from the gangs and becoming like a really strong, assertive young woman and stuff like that. And then we got commissioned for episode 3, which had to be wrote very differently because it was around mental health, and it's something I'm really passionate about. Like, I've lost a lot of friends to suicide and stuff, so this was something I really wanted to do well, and I knew I had like a real duty to get this one like really bang on. And so the other stories were all about like what happens if you do this, this, and this, and the mental health one was more about like the more you watch it, the more you reveal what's going on in the character's life.
And it's slightly younger age group as well, wasn't it? It was a 15-year-old So in all the previous episodes, the young person's either being 17, 18, 19. So you actually do make more choices for yourself there, but at 15, you know, even down to having what you're going to have for dinner, somebody else decides, you know, like, you don't really have full choice. So
and sometimes the mental health, like, is down to, like, how your parents respond to you, or your teacher.
Yeah, so the choices that the teacher would take or the mum would take, and that's what the user, when you play it at home, it's like, does Jacob's mum get angry, and does she deal with him in a sort of thing where, or is it because she's busy and she's going to be late that she snaps, and it's them little subtleties.
But his mum's got her own stuff going on, and the teacher's got her stuff going on. She's like breaking up with her boyfriend, so it's all of these factors that can impact on someone. And then like the last choice is like, do your friends like, are your friends a dick to you, or like, do your friends try and help you out? And if your friends like, so your friends can pull you around. And it wasn't until I sat there and watched the whole thing, one after the other, I fell in love with it, and I realised then that what we'd actually done is come up with a different format of storytelling. A collection of like 64 or 32 endings or whatever to like a story. It was like just all of these layers of this one character, and we launched that with 5.6 million people following the page. Our most popular country now is America, followed by Philippines, then India, then the UK. One of the posts that I sent out on my mobile phone reached like 288 million people.
In your previous life, your previous job, you know, you had a lot of experience dealing with similar issues. But why is it important you do focus on this, and what's your general ambition by doing this? Because as your stories progress, as your episodes progress, you get to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What is it you want to achieve by the 10th one when you've got like 10 billion viewers?
When I grew up in an area, like a very deprived area of Newcastle, and you know, like I had like issues and stuff like that when I was a kid, and I remember like leaving school without much direction of where I was going to go, and I was like heading in the wrong path, and it was just one person that took the time with me, one worker. And then I look at Trylife, and I look at all of them young people that have been impacted by that, and all of that goes back down to that one intervention, right? The fact that I'd been empowered myself, and then like managed to go on and like work with young people, and like really like done what was done to me. I loved all of that. So Trylife was set up as that. And then I suddenly realised that what I'd created was actually, like, the applications for it could be massive. So I was quickly trying to keep Trylife alive, because it's been a real flipping hard struggle. You know, there's been like times where I went like 7 months without getting paid. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've nearly lost everything, man. I've gambled everything on this, and I just thought, I've got to keep going, because the Facebook page and the social media, when I'm having 500 million social media impressions a month, I know for a fact that at some point, like, I'm reaching 188 million people in a week. I'm 22 million people engaged with the page. I know it's going to get picked up, and I've just got to keep going, So where my passion lies in it is, 1, engaging with young people, right? 2 is getting them to create the content. 3 is the process. 4 is like the output, in like looking at like in the intrigue, like, can we actually bring about behavior change? Because if we can, that is absolutely massive, right? And then on top of that, what impact is it having on the people that are directly involved in the development of it, right? Whether it be actors or writers or whatever, right? Or production crew, right? What impact does it have on people that are being exposed to it secondhand, like within the classroom in an e-learning section, because we just created the whole e-learning section and stuff, right? And then what impact is it having on the wider community? Like you say, them 6 million people that just stumble across it. And I know from some of the interactions that we've got, that like it's already saved some lives. Some people have like emailed in, and like that's job done. So like even that happening to one person, do you know what I mean? Like that is job done. I mean, like the journey's been like it hasn't been all plain sailing. It's been really hard work. Do you know what I mean? It really has. But like it's absolutely worth every single.
Totally.
But like if like for me, it's very difficult for me to enjoy some aspects of the work, but that's just because I'm so caught up in it. But like every so often I get like this little wave where I'm just like, we've been to LA, or like, oh my god, like, you know, when I'm at the BFI, in the BFI, I've being what do you call it, being at the BFI and sitting in the front row, and I've got like my kids and my family and like all the cast and crew, and we've got like a packed cinema, and like I'm sitting at the front thinking like, this is bizarre, like we're sitting watching on a 65-foot screen something like I've made. Do you know what I mean? It's mad. Yeah, so we've been teaching USC at night time and writing a script with USC students. We've been over to America. We got took over as part of a trade envoy. Like I said earlier, we met the Crips.
Yeah.
Met the Crips gang. We ended up like sitting out with them and agreeing with them to make a film about the Bloods and the Crips, like a full interactive experience. But that's going to be amazing. That one. There's so much going on with that. I've been writing an interactive sci-fi in my spare time. We entered into Pitch at the Palace. There was 2,100 companies in total. We entered into Pitch at the Palace and we got placed in them, in both the People's Choice Award and in the overall award. But then we've been writing episode 4, which has just been absolutely horrendous. So it's about a young girl that's being groomed and sexually abused, and like this one has got to be so right. Like I've basically I threw we scrapped like 180 pages of script just before Christmas.
Because the subject matter's sort of so horrendous.
It's raw, isn't
it? Yeah. It's you've got to do it justice. Like you can't just flippantly. And there's been so much in the media just recently as well. And like it's one of them to try to do it justice so that young girls or young boys actually come forward and say like, hold on a minute, no, this is wrong. Like. And it's that again, that learning of critical thinking. The
lead character's called Avani and she's mixed Asian, and she's being groomed by an older guy. One of the scenes he screams at her, he grabs a hold of her and I think he punches her and he's like, Avani! And when he shouts, Avani changes from like Asian to black to mixed to brunette to ginger, just like she's white, she's black, she's mixed race, she's like in her skin, in her hair, and everything just changes. Her ethnicity changes, the look on her face changes. And like what we wanted to really demonstrate with this is like Avani could be absolutely any young person. Yeah. Then they'll start seeing their daughter in that, and that daughter can be anyone. And it's just exactly the same for the perpetrator of the crime, like he could be anyone. Now this episode might cause a bit of controversy, but that's what Trylife's there for. And like I hope it does, because like if a little bit more controversy had been caused in Rochdale, maybe it's like some of them young kids, them hundreds and hundreds of kids wouldn't have been victims of that.
You have the ability to create controversy. That may not be the main necessary goal, but you don't mind as long as what you're doing has the genuine impact.
Our controversy is created not by us trying to be controversial, right? Our controversy is created by real life stories, and people. And the controversy comes from people watching it and feeling really, really uncomfortable. Like so, we'll create it with some professionals, right? This has happened in the past where they're like, it's a little bit close to the line, that, and you think, do you know what it is? Like, because that is there, that there is where the issue is right there, and this is like all created from the young people who have experienced it. And then like when you actually talk to the young women that have been through it, or you actually video it and you see it and you film it and you create that scene that happened, right, that's come from their thingies, and you're watching it and you're thinking, oh my god, that is absolutely horrendous. Like, what is that young girl going to do? And like some people might say that is walking the line, but actually what it's doing is highlighting exactly what that saying is. We are going to go in and cover it, and we're going to do it justice. We're going to use our own personal experiences of growing up, and I'm going to use the collective experience of all of these young people that are going through it, and we're going to shine a light on every single thing, and we're going to use that as a tool to empower these young people and give them the necessary equipment to get themselves out of it. We can arm people with the refusal tools to get out of them situations. So what we had to do is we created the education pack, which covers Key Stage 3 and 4 of the national curriculum. So it covers drugs and alcohol, relationships, sexual health, inequality and diversity, and soon mental health. And then what we've done is we created an e-learning section, so teachers can log in, and we edited every single possible route that you can take in the story down. And then we give a brief description of what happens within that scene. And then we've got a narrated version and an unnarrated version, so the teacher can, or the professional can, click the narrated button and then watch it with like all of the smarts pointed out. This character's done that. The reason why we've done this is that. The reason why she says that is this. And like these are the choices that you've made.
It gives you an insight to the thought process, not necessarily the
learning. So then they can turn the narration off and then watch it with a group of young people, but be armed with all of the smarts and all of the questions. The e-learning content is valuable content which we can sell to local authorities. there's also like opportunities for like product placement, but what we're not going to have obviously is like Coca-Cola or McDonald's or anything like that in there. Do you know what I mean? Getting the young actors out doing workshops in schools and stuff like that. But like after winning pitch at the Palace, what I'm hoping is like over the next year, the Palace have put me in touch with people who are now giving me business advice, and we're going to implement some of their changes and slowly. Like this is a slow burn. Like Trylife is a slow burn, but like the following is massive. We need to take our time. We need to do it justice, and we need to create the content, and we need to. The most important thing for me is keeping its morality and its and the ethics behind why it was set up.
Yeah, the ethos of Trylife is first and foremost.
But what was actually happening at that time when you started this? Because you said you started it in 2008. You started getting the ideas. Yeah. So what were you actually doing?
I think I was doing freelance work at the time, like working for like media production companies and stuff like that, and doing a bit of like youth engagement with North Tyneside Council, like doing like short movies and stuff like that. And at the back of my mind, I was like, you know, just mulling over like Trylife in the back of my mind. It wasn't called Trylife then; it was called the Young Person's Interactive Teenage Website or something. And I was like, we can't call it this. It's just shit name. And then like
there's no acronym there either.
No, and it was crap. And it was one of my friends who the guy I actually like set a business up with originally. His mother was sitting knitting on me settee, and she was like, "Well, what you doing? You're just trying life, aren't you?" And I was like, "That's it, try life." And that's how Trylife was born. I didn't realise the amount of work that it would take, but like it just become part of my lifestyle. Like, I work like 7 days a week. Like most weeks. This year I've been a bit better with myself because like last year I really burnt out last year. So like when I got late November last year, like even just responding to a text message or an email, like I would write a text 5 or 6 times because I couldn't concentrate. Like I was like, but I'd not had any holidays. I was completely spent. And the last day at work, we had a meeting in Edinburgh. I thought, right, we'll get this meeting out of the way in the morning. It was a really good meeting, and we met like the head of Scottish Health and stuff like that, and we're going to go for a couple of pints in Edinburgh and then like come back down.
We ended up in like Witherspoons and we were all just sat.
Sat staring at it and we're pint.
Like,
I was just like,
I got brandy or something. I remember like getting this brandy, like looking at it.
We couldn't even speak one.
Like, I remember like looking at it, like, I'm going for a cig. Are we going?
Yeah. And
we
honestly,
just drove all the way home. We just drove back, didn't we?
Like, but one thing I've always said right from day one is every day, no matter how ill I am or how down or whatever the issue is, like I'll always do one thing for the company. And even if that is send a text message or an email, I will always push the company forward with one thing every single day at least. And you'll normally find that like just sending that one text or like that one email or just like that one phone call or responding or doing one post on social media or that one thing will normally spur on like a couple of other little things. If it wasn't for my landlord and you know, like my sister like bringing food parcels around and like friends, you know what I mean, like friends like take me for a pint and bring you a couple of quid and stuff like that. It sounds mad, but like that is a reality of like setting it up. You know, like when you're setting up a company, it's like it is really stressful. There's been times, like I said, you know, like that we never got paid for like 7 months waiting for like contracts to come in and stuff like that. I mean, like I'd already decided a long time ago that like if this is gonna come, like if it was gonna fail, it would fail. I would go all the way down with it. I would lose absolutely everything. I'd put everything in. Aye, mate, you've got to, because what's the point? Because if I was to step away today, I'd be thinking, like in 10 years' time, what happens if I just waited 1 more day? What if I just waited 2 more days? What if I just waited 1 more week?
Create something that's actually going to change how things work, is to make the old system look obsolete. So I think that sort of stands out.
I think for me it was like, I can't think of any advice that really stood out off the top of my head. But the thing that motivated me more than anything really was like people saying like, "Oh, you'll never do it, Tim." Do you know what I mean? Like, or people saying like, "There's no way you can write 455 pages of script. There's no way you can film all of that. There's no way you can write all of that." Or like, "Oh, who do you think he is? Yeah, there's no way he can do that." And like, you don't need to be an expert in every single bit of it. You need to trust people. That's the trickiest bit, is finding people like you can trust and work with, but. You don't need to be an expert in all of the fields. You need to bring people in that know their trade.
I think for me personally is having him as a work colleague, because both of us lift each other up, so you know we both keep each other going.
That's another thing is like having
believing somebody else believing in exactly what you are doing, and there's never been a time where either one of us have been like, right, yeah, this is not going to work. You know, we've never got disheartened.
Or like, I struggle with my mental health at times. I have like these massive moments of creativity, but then it comes at a cost. You know, where I hit a low. But like, I recognise like, you know, like that roller coaster ride, and it's always been that way. And when one of us is like fatigued or like can see it in someone, the other one will like pick up the baton and just go like, I'll sort that and do that, that, and that. Do you know what I mean?
As kids being so proud of us when we did the BFI, all three kids being teary-eyed, and this is like 2 19-year-olds and a 17-year-old.
I'm proud of what I've done, and when I looked at the first episode, I was really proud of it, and I'm proud of all of the young people that have done it. And one of my main drivers really is looking at all of the young people that have invested their time and energy into it. I look at it as a youth work process, and I look at it as the whole thing, and like, fucking right, I'm proud. I'm well happy. Setting up your own business is a fucking headache. It's a nightmare. But like, I can't say that. I can say whatever I want. But like, I love it. My advice to anyone wanting to do it is do it.
Yeah.
But do it about something you love. If you're not prepared to lose everything, then really seriously, like what you're going to do, you're going to stop doing it. So don't bother doing it. So I dived in, and I had nothing to lose, but everything to gain.
My belief was
I didn't want to fail.
Fear.
I just did not want to fail, and I wanted it, and I knew it wouldn't fail.
Yeah.
It wasn't me knowing that it wouldn't fail. Me gut feeling, I just knew. And then once the Facebook like started going up 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 6.2 million now. That short-term pain, I know, will be better in the long run. And now that the support I've got around us, I know for a fact that like the long-term sustainability of it is there. To where we're at now is we really need the senior management team is our next step.
Yeah.
We need like a really, really good social media executive on board. We need someone to come in and sell this e-learning. Like, we need someone to come in and help create more content. So my 3 books that I swear by is Jonathan Livingston Seagull is one of them. It's an absolutely fantastic book, and you can read it in a day. It's just like good if you need to escape. The second one is the Diving Bell, or the Butterfly and the Diving Bell. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. And anytime like you're feeling like, you know, like life's coming on top and stuff like that, like just read that, and it's this really humbling book. It's an autobiography. And I reckon my third one would be Stig of the Dump. You've got to be, because it's just really good just to forget about work and go back to like a childhood book or something like that, and just like a little bit of nostalgia. Plus, you know, he's a resourceful guy. I think it's them 3 books I swear by.
I think I'd just probably pick 2: The Art of War by Sun Tzu, and The Eternal Braid, Godel, Escher and Bach.
There's some solid choices there, though.
Science and
No, Stig the Dump's better than that, man.
Science and mathematics. It's what builds the social construct. The one where we have our business for. It's all mathematics,
is that cool?
darling.
Yeah, that's it, guys. That's absolutely brilliant. Nice one for taking part.
No, thank you.
Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.